Hey, welcome back to the Tech Ed Clubhouse podcast. Today, I'm joined by a great person in the education world, Stevie Frank. Haven't had the chance to meet her in person yet, but we've been in the same groups all over the place. And she talks about AI and media and all this other kind of stuff. So, Stevie, welcome to the show. Tell us about where you are in education, what you're up to, and we'll go from there.
Well, sounds great. Well, Dan, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me onto your show. I have listened to multiple podcasts of yours. I'm a more like I listen because I have
Right.
so many things to do, right? But I'm so honored to be here today. So thank you so much for the warm welcome. My name is Stevie Frank. I'm a digital learning coach in my district located in Zionsville, Indiana, and I am located in the Midwest. So Dan and I were chatting a little bit about what weather I get now. He gets tomorrow. So I absolutely love where I live and work. I have a great network of people here too as well. And I also find myself consulting. So I find myself in different parts of the United States of America, either presenting or attending conferences or being able to virtually meet people, just like this show is allowing for me to do. And when I am not doing those things, I love traveling. So that is one of my hobbies to do with my family. So we are actually next week going to be marking off a travel on our list, which is going to be Charleston, and Asheville, Tennessee. And so we're going to be doing some camping, and having some fun adventures there.
Awesome. That sounds fun. I've yet to be to Charleston, but I'm also as a retired teacher looking forward to go and do some travel. My wife's still working, but got to keep me in the lifestyle I've grown accustomed.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so there's that. Um, this is going to come out after you go, but you got Spring Q coming up in California, and this is going to come out probably the Monday after. It's this week. We're recording this on the 16th of March. God, I almost forgot the month there. And you're heading to Spring Q. What's going on there? What are you talking
Oh,
about?
gosh, I'm so excited. Well, by the time this airs, then I will be presenting for Phygital Labs, which is Becky Keene's
Oh, love
company
Becky.
that she has. And so, since I'm a consultant for her as well, I'm going to actually be sharing everything that I learned from Spring Q. So this is kind of like if you're listening to this, this can kind of be a teaser, but I will be sharing on a webinar through Phygital Labs about the whole conference, my takeaways, my connections, all of the things that I was doing. I will definitely be sharing there too as well. But I am just looking forward to. So first of all, I professionally wanted to challenge myself into going to different conferences that I had never been to. So this year I marked off IdeaCon off my list, which is in Schaumburg, right outside of Chicago, Illinois. And I wanted to attend that conference just because I felt like I wanted to try something new. I wanted to listen to different people. I wanted to learn from different people. And I had the opportunity to speak as well. And so that's what Spring Q is about. I had so many of my friends that were like, "Oh my gosh, Stevie, you've got to check this out." And I have been to Palm Springs just with my family before, but I had never like conference there. And Dan, I'm going to say you're going to be a little jealous, but I was looking at the weather and it's like 100 degrees.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts.
It did. It did. So I'm packing and I'm getting prepared. Something else that people might know about me, if you've been following me for a little bit, I am like the carry-on queen. So anywhere, any conference, when we travel 2 weeks, even internationally, I always carry on. And so I was working on it this weekend and I was getting all my bags packed and all my outfits figured out. And I was like, I think I'm going to be packing for like this also for Orlando and Isti. I have a feeling.
Yeah, because that's at the end of June, right?
It is. It is. Are you going?
I am as of right now, no. I do some work around my area in the summer at the golf course. So, and to be honest with you, Stevie, Isty's a little bit too big for me.
It is
It
big.
gets to be too people-y. Sometimes you just get, you know, it's like 40,000 of your closest friends. I've gone a couple times. I have gone a couple times. I did go to New Orleans, which was a trip.
Yeah.
The first one post-COVID which was fun. But one thing you mentioned in there is you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone,
Yeah.
right? Um, is that something that we could, as teachers that might be listening to this or administrators, is that something that how would you recommend somebody in education do that?
What a great question. So oftentimes in my district, it's funny. I have the consulting side of me, right? And I'm out there
Right.
on the LinkedIn world and everything. And then I'm very humbled and I love it that a lot of people don't really know what all of the different presenting and everything that I do too. But there are some teachers that they're like, how do I do what you're doing? I get asked about that at different times. And so first of all, I'm more than happy to reach out to any of you. So if you're like, hey, I'm kind of interested in this conference scene, what do I do? Reach out. One of the biggest things that I've been working with on some people that I was just talking with, teachers and administrators actually last week, it was topic of conversation was how do I get involved? What I do is I just simply, I will either and I learned this from Katie Fielding, so I'm also going to give
Another
credit
great
where
lady.
credit is due. So what she had taught me to do, she's like, yeah, I just look up hashtags of like conferences in either Twitter X or on LinkedIn, and then that kind of lets you know what's coming. I also just kind of follow a lot of people in my professional learning network on LinkedIn or on Twitter X and just see where are people going, where are people presenting, where are people that I have heard speak, and I look up to, or they're an author of a book. Where are they going to speak at? Because then that kind of lets me know, okay, that might be a conference I'm interested in. And then from there, then that's when I will submit proposals. So the reason why I actually started presenting was if you present, a lot of times you will either get free or discounted registration. So
Absolutely.
a lot of times I was like, man, traveling to those places is expensive. And I incur a lot of those costs myself. So I was like, well, that's a way that I can kind of offset that cost, if you will, for presenting. I also started noticing myself of being like, I was attending a lot of conferences, and then I was like, you know what? I have taken so much from these amazing educators that have given their time, energy, and effort to reach out and to present, and I want to give back. So that's a big reason why I present and share is I feel like it would be selfish of me to keep everything that I've learned, just inside of me. And that's a big reason why I do it. So I would say just keep your ear to the ground, and that ground being social media for me,
Mhm.
and just kind of seeing what's out there. You can also look up local conferences just to see what's kind of popping up around. And then from there, you just kind of get into, oh, well, I heard about this conference, so maybe I'll attend this one and kind of go on from there. But Dan, you're right. Like it's one of those places that, once you start getting into it
Yep.
and the people that attend these conferences, they want to network. They want to meet people. They want to talk to people. So if you are like, oh my gosh, I idolize this person, or I've been watching them, or they wrote this book and it's phenomenal and I want to go talk to them, go talk to them. Like everybody in education is so approachable, I feel like.
Yeah, and that I've like a couple names there. I haven't talked to Katie Fielding yet. I really want to get her on the show, but I've talked to Becky a couple times, and there's a couple other people that we've talked about. But the people like yourself and Becky Keene, and I'm sure Katie, that are doing the work want to share the work. They're not going to say, okay, yeah, I'll talk to you, but it's going to be $100 an hour or whatever. If like I reached out to you and you're like, yeah, I want to be on, let's talk, let's discuss. And the people that are doing the boots on the ground work, because are you still in the classroom?
So I'm a digital learning coach. So
Okay.
I work in a public school setting. I support 3 different schools. And I also lead a tech leadership group of students
Of
because I
course you do.
still want that connection with kids and families. And so
Right.
I am not in the classroom. No, I am supporting in the classrooms. Yes.
So you're still in the school district, right? But in the people, but what are you finding too as you go to these conferences, the people want to share.
Hmm.
So and I kind of went down that road too here, and we got to get you to come to Nice here in New York State too.
I know that's been on my list. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, you
That's
need to come.
October.
It's in November. It's right before
November.
Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Um, in this year, the shameless plug for Nicegate and Amy Del Corvo and all the things that they do here. We're at the Turning Stone Casino up by Syracuse, and they are opening. We are the first conference in the new exposition space, and they have a new hotel that just opened.
Ooh, shiny new
So,
objects.
so we are going to be the first conference in the new space, and it's the Sunday through Tuesday before Thanksgiving, whatever that turns out to be. And if you've ever been to FETC or the Tennessee one, very similar conference.
Very cool.
MassQ, if you've been to MassQ, it's the same type of thing, except we're not at Gillette Stadium. We're not at the football stadium. We're at a casino, which is always fun. And that's where I started, right? I started 10 years ago, just doing a session here or there, because I don't know what your thought is as a tech leader and a digital learning coach. What would you think is the best PD in a school district?
I think the best PD in a school district is the teacher down the hall.
Love it. That's the answer I was fishing for right there. Because sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Do your teachers get out and talk to each other, go visit each other when they're teaching, during the school day?
Hey, it's interesting that you say that. And I think there are different philosophies, and so I'm not going to speak for others. I'm going to use I statements on this one.
Absolutely.
Had a hard time finding the time to get out of my classroom to go. So in the school district that I work in Zionsville Community Schools, we started to really take a closer look at how we went through, observations and those sorts of things, that we all have to go through as teachers, to be able to see how that's going. So we really took a closer look at that. And then as you've been teaching for a couple more years, then they allowed you to have the availability to create your own goals, to go visit other teachers. And then that was a part of, our formalized observations, grading system, I guess you will, even though it's, it's grading, it's not grading, but that's what we're doing at the end of the day. And so those opportunities, like I loved, and I was like, again, I went upstairs to go see how Dawn Zerby was teaching language arts and how she was talking about grammar and explicit instruction, because that was one of my weak points. And so that was my personal goal. And then I went to go see a teacher, and then I wrote a reflection on about that. And that is something that we have to systemically, as school districts, create those systems in place so that our teachers can do that. Because to find the time to do that in just a normal, it was difficult, right? I'm grading 60 different essays. I have, 2 different sections of humanities that I'm teaching. There's different curriculums. The standards are changing. Now I've got to make sure that I renew my license. I mean, there's so much. So I think also keeping in mind of okay, I need to continue my education, but then I love school districts that are for that. So yeah, speaking for myself on that one.
Yeah, because one of the things that I kind of had this little mini epiphany, I guess, for lack of a better term, after I left FETC because I drove. So it was a nice 15-hour, 16-hour car ride home,
yeah,
which was a great time to reflect. I've stopped and visited a friend of mine, played some golf, but, some of the things that are, I kind of was telling people and that, your take on this. Do you want to see some good instruction that's non-traditional? Go to the band room, go to the art room,
yeah,
go to basketball practice. I know you're in Indiana, so basketball's probably a big thing out there in Indiana. I'm not quite sure how that, whatever. But what do you think about that? Go and see that athletic practice, or go and see that musical practice. It doesn't have to be, just a what I call the core 4 teachers.
I love that philosophy. And honestly, Dan, I like that you've challenged me, because I've never thought about that. I've never thought about going and looking at a different, curriculum than the curriculum that I was teaching in. I think where I would grow as well as a teacher was would call on a coach. And so I think coaches are sometimes not utilized as well.
Right.
I used my digital learning coach all the time. So he and I had a good relationship. I would call him in at different times. I was never afraid to ask for help, and I was never afraid to receive feedback. In fact, there'd be, we had to have the observations where our administrators would come in and then they'd fill out some blanks. And I was like, tell me what I need to work on. And I think that work is uncomfortable. We grow from adversity. We grow from those, those experiences, but to seek those out is kind of difficult, and feels kind of icky sometimes. But I would say if you're sitting there and you're listening and you're like, Stevie, that sounds great. Dan, that sounds great. I would love to go to a conference, but I'm uncomfortable with that. Then ways that you can still grow is, looking out and seeking out those different opportunities. Dan, I'm gonna steal yours at some point. I would be like, Dan Thomas said this, and here's what this looked like. So
Well, like I tell people, I'm a recovering middle school teacher. I was there for 32 years, and if you've ever taught seventh grade for 30 years, you know that you are. It's an interesting ball game. But I
Middle school
also
is
was
very
I was
different. Yes.
I was also an athletics coach too. I coached football, I coached some swimming, so I was very familiar with that whole philosophy. And I think you see a lot of those teachers in your school that are also the football coach. They have different ways of doing something than that teacher, whether they're new or the 20-year veteran, right? And there's nothing wrong with any of that
Yeah.
because you pick and choose, right? You pick, I mean, it's no different than comedies that you like or rom-coms or TV shows. You pick and choose. And I think that's where conferences come in too, like you said.
Yeah. The choosing your own adventure component of it, I really enjoy that. And so it's funny. So something that I do before conferences, and it's on my to-do list. So I'm like looking over here. I'm like, I have my to-do list.
I love it.
On there is I need to make sure I said build out my Q agenda. So prior to attending a conference, I will strategically look at the schedule. I will star sessions, and sometimes I'll even star sessions at the same time, like
Hmm.
2 or 3 sessions, because sometimes that one session might fill up. I also jump. So at different times, if I'm like, okay, great, I got your content, I got your slides, I'm going to now go to another session, not because I don't like your session, but because I'm trying to squeeze in as much learning as I possibly can. And something I want to call out to our amazing Indiana educators. Whenever we travel to different conferences, us as digital learning coaches of our state, we all don't have the same opportunities. We go to different conferences. But what we do is, even if a group of us are going together, we will share out a Google document that has a list of all of the sessions that we went to. We'll write notes about it, and then we'll also give slides. So then that way, if we can't attend every single session, we're like, hey, I saw you went to this session. Can you share about it? And so I also love that. A small group of us are going to Spring Q. And so I'm a part of a list. One of my digital learning coaches, Kyle Beimfor, he just shot out he was like, hey, let's put together a list of sessions and then a link of presentations down on there. And then we can share it out with us as a state. So if you didn't get to attend, you still get the notes. And I think that's a pretty cool thing too, we do here in Indiana.
Yeah, that's amazing because like you said, you can get a whole bunch of different things without necessarily because for some people it's hard to leave the classroom.
It
I
is.
know I know I just did a regional conference up in Buffalo, which was an hour and a half away. And for me, if I were in the classroom, that's a 10 to 12 hour day by the time I drive up there and drive home. And it's worth it. But if I had little kids that had to pick up a daycare or a 12-year-old that had to go to baseball practice or musical or
Or you're
lessons or
that
something,
coach,
or
right?
I was that coach, right? It's hard to get away, and a lot of teachers don't do that. So going back to that teacher down the hall,
Yeah.
right? Get out of your silo, right? We're so stuck in our silos.
It is interesting that when I have shared that, it was interesting. I was in a statewide AI meeting last week, and we were meeting with people in industry and then also higher ed. And when I said that, I was like, yeah, we teach in our four walls, and it's difficult to find the time to get out. They were stunned. It
Mhm.
was like, but your education. I was like, I know.
Right.
So that's why I went back to that systematic. You as a district need to prioritize learning and prioritize professional development. And then what steps are you willing to take as a district? So if you're an administrator listening to this, what processes and what systems in place do you need to put? So then that way that continued learning can continue. And if you're sitting there and you're a teacher and you're like, well, I can't control that, Stevie. You're like, I can't go to these conferences because here's what I've got.
Right.
So I have this they just had birthdays. So let me get this right. I have a 7 and 9 year old.
Wow.
And so I was in the world a while ago where I could not leave. My husband
Sure.
travels too as well. And so it was one of those like I was home. I wanted to be home. I didn't want to
Absolutely.
go out and get around. And so I attended a ton of webinars. And I became a part of a lot of professional learning network groups. And so I'm a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert. And that was something that like that comes with monthly meetings. So they have a monthly meeting. They talk to you all about the things like
Mhm.
what are people using in innovative ways. And those were little snippets that I started to get into and groups I started to become a part of. And a lot of them are even Facebook groups. Like I'm a part of the
Yeah.
Seesaw Ambassador group, and I'm like, they're always hopping and bopping. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what it looks like. And so once you start becoming parts of those groups, then you can even learn from those groups on tools that your district has paid for too. So those are different ways. And that's kind of how I broke into the scene, if you will. I just attended a ton of things online. I posted about them. I learned about them online. And when I say online, I'm just simply meaning Twitter, X, and then LinkedIn.
Love those
Those are
places.
and those are places that I still link to. And I'm like, okay, how did I hear about IdeaCon? Well, a lot of my friends had become featured speakers there. And I was like, okay, great, I'm going to go. And then I don't know, one thing leads to another. And so that's my hope is that we all as educators continue learning. If you have the opportunity to go to a conference, that's amazing. So now I've been working on writing grants to help get teachers in my district to go to these
Awesome.
conferences. Now, have they been approved by the state? That's another story. But that's something that I really try to do because they are so meaningful. Having those shared experiences, I think, are very meaningful.
And you talked about the webinars, and one of the
Yeah.
things that I did is so you might not be able to attend it live, but if you
Yes,
sign up for it, they'll 9 times out of 10 they send you the recording.
they do. Yeah.
So it's a win-win, right? I mean, I know there's a
Yes.
lot of those that you can sign up for
Yeah.
that you and then you just asynchronously watch it or do it on your prep time and let it run in the background while you're listening to it or on your walk or whatever. I mean, that's how I digest some of my podcasts too. I don't sit, I mean, you watch them on YouTube a lot, but so I listen to them when I'm out for a walk or when I'm playing golf, just something to listen to. And I'm driving to Michigan this week and going to, what is it, McCall up there. And first time for me. So up there. So
Oh, well, what kind of sessions are you looking forward to out there?
I
Have you built
haven't
out your
looked at,
schedule yet?
I haven't built out my schedule, but when I do my sessions, I'm going to do a shameless plug here a little bit, even though it's my show. My stuff are hands on. When I do my sessions, I'm my big tool is Lego, right? I don't want to be known as the Lego guy, but my big tool is Lego, manipulatives, hands on, doing something.
Yes.
So we're building something. Hence my wherever this thing is here, build, think, reflect. My
Yeah.
little my little I don't know if it's backwards for you guys or not.
It looks great.
Okay, because sometimes Zoom screws it up when it comes out. Um, but no, I got a couple sessions. It's a great conference. I'm going to go for nothing else, Stevie, to network with people and meet
Yeah.
people that I haven't met before or met online like this and go see in person. And I had that opportunity at FETC. Have you been to FETC?
Yes, I went not I did go last year. So not this year, not in 2026, but I did go in 25. And that was an amazing conference and that was one I had never been. So I
Yeah, that was
also
my
have
first.
been doing this like let's step out of the comfort zone. Let's try that a little bit. But I so echo that hands-on approach. And in fact, this morning I was coaching with a teacher and she was like, I'm trying to use this website to have students using math manipulatives, and I'm trying to get it going, on the website just isn't. And as somebody in tech and people in tech, there's times where I'm like, put it away.
Put it
Like,
away.
let's get out the protractors, let's get out the rulers, let's get out the hard stuff. Like sometimes my answer as a tech coach is let's not use the tech. It sounds like that's becoming, in fact, not enhancing the learning, but it's becoming a barrier. And so I also think that that's important for us to, it's okay to put the computers down and to do the hands-on approaches. And then that's what I love about, applications like Seesaw, for example, because then we were talking like, then you can just take an iPad, you can snap a picture of it, send it home to this, to the parents, have the kid, record, here's
Yep.
my manipulative, here's how I used it, here's how I moved it around. And so then you're just really upping that level of SAMR, if you will, embedded into that, what you were already doing. And so that's some of it too, that I think, if we're going to get the hands-on and that is what we're heading towards, you can marry the two. You don't have to do one instead of the other. So,
And coming from a tech coach, that's huge.
yeah.
And I think, and I'd like your take on this. I think we're kind of at a point now with the AI thing and ed tech that we're at a point where the shiny's done, right? Like, ooh, look at this cool tool,
Yeah.
right? I think we're at, okay, now what is it really going to do?
It is interesting. Yeah. So that's a really great point you bring up. And I also want to, as boots on the ground, also explain is not everybody's using it.
No.
Not everybody knows about it. No, I have teachers that have never logged into a large language model. So I think and that is around the United States. I think there's a vast misunderstanding of that. So I also, when I'm able to have these shared spaces, I'm like, okay, nope. I think that's a big misunderstanding because those of us in tech are like, oh yeah, we're ready, we're moving on. And so I started a book study with teachers at the beginning of this year, and it was AI for Educators by Matt Miller, and that was 2023. I was like, I think we're there. We're going to start with the very basics.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it with students. We're just going to fill our cups as teachers into learning, how do I use it? What is a large language model? What is AI? What are the ethics around it? And then kind of going from there. And I think we need to start with that a little bit. Now, to catch up with where I'm at professionally is now I'm looking at it where can we use it as a thought tool? Where are capacities? How can I make Claude bring out and tell me what I want it to create? With all the privacy and protections put in place. So if you are not paying for a large language model, you are the commodity. It is your data and information that you're doing with it. So Absolutely. Do with that what you will. But there's just a lot of components now. How do you use it best with students? I mean, I just happen to have her book here. I ran a book study.
Great book. Yep.
AI for Educators, written by Becky Keene. And she does a great job with marrying that question where you're like, how do I use it in higher levels with students, with kids, like with teachers? Like, how do I connect the two? Like hundreds of examples in her book. And so
sense too, very like, hey, this is tomorrow, you can do it.
Yeah. And I think it's great. So that is definitely a space to where if you're like, how do I get a hands-on experience with AI with my students? Like, that's a great space. But if you're listening and you're like, I've never logged into a large language model. I think it was Ethan Mollick's book who said it takes 3 sleepless nights to truly understand what an AI model can do and what it's capable of. And I'm still learning every day. I think like, believe me, there are times where I wake up and I'm like, oh, okay, well, we're on to Claude now. Got it.
Yeah. I just started playing with Claude, and the new Claude is just amazing. And it's like, I pay for ChatGPT and I'm like, might have to pay for Claude instead, or two in addition to, because they each do something a little bit different too,
Yeah.
Copilot is great. I know Becky's big on Copilot because she was with Microsoft up there. But each tool has its own pluses and minuses.
It does. Copilot is one of my favorites, I would have to say, and that's just because we have enterprise in my district. So it has all the privacy protections put in place, and I have agents created through there, and it knows me by now because I use it so frequently. So yes. So to say that to you, yes. And I also know that she works with school districts too as well, to kind of help them with some of those implementation plans. So if you're like, I don't even know how to start it, those are really great conversations to start.
Yeah. And speaking of like training in schools, what is it if because you're a tech coach, and I'm going to turn right here a little bit, because this is one of my little pet peeves. What does a PD look like when you run a professional development for some of your teachers, or a little class? What does that look like for them?
So great question. A lot of times, I'm just going to go ahead and answer that as a question of this year. So in years past, I had run like tech slams, and it would be optional professional development, and they would show up, and I would just be like, okay, here's a tool that we're paying for as a district. How can I help increase usage and using it in, the higher level of ways? And so a lot of times I would kind of have tech slams that were centered around that. But then this year, I really wanted us to truly understand what AI is. So then that's when I started the book study with the 3 schools that I support. And so a lot of times it just looks like us sitting down, reading through the chapters or talking through the chapters. I've already reading reading it prior, and then discussing it and just talking about what that looks like. And then that's turned into coaching cycles. So a lot of times the teachers are like, hey, we pay for Magic School AI as our school district. And they're like, hey, I want to use that with students. How do I do that? And then I'm like, hey, so we co-plan together and then we co-teach together. I lead the conversation of like, here's how to use AI literacy. Like I'm spouting all the things that are like, AI literacy, AI ethics. And then she's like, here's how to do it with our assignment that we're working on. And that collaborative effort has been great. So to answer that question, I don't know if I
No, that was a great, that was what I was looking for. Cause that's a great
okay.
model cause so many times as a teacher, as you know, when I got a PD, it was like, okay, we did this, check mark. Brought this guy in and we talked about SEL for half a day. Check.
SEL's checked.
Right. Hey, we our tech coach, nothing against our tech coach, but this is the way it kind of started because it always seems to turn out that they turn into a tech support person.
Yeah.
But so many times, and we had a great one, just like you. I mean, probably, I wish we had somebody, as awesome as you, but our guy was great. But it was like, hey, I'm going to be in room 300. Come and see me. Well, teachers aren't going to do that.
Yeah. And it's funny. I just went to a session a couple days ago where a tech coach had used that with her teachers and it worked and they came. So I think some will come. And she was like, that was a huge aha. So my thing was, I was like, I brought a book to tech and people came and that was my win. And that's not going to be everybody's win. And so where the basis of all of this comes from is the relationships that you have with your teachers, the relationships that you have with your administrators. Like if you're a tech coach listening to this, it all boils down to the relationships. Like anybody knows, they can come up to me, hey, Stevie, I need da 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 da. And even if it is like, hey, I need help with my printer, is that my job description? No. Am I going to help them with the printer? Yes. I also, like this morning, I was working in the middle school and the technician was in and out, helping teachers. And I was still having kids come to me and I was helping them with their devices. And I think that servant leadership style too, as well. Like I'm not going to be like, hey, that's not my lane. I'm going to learn that lane, which then makes me better at my job. So for example, when I go around and present and I'm plugging in and I'm like, oh, hey, I know how to choose the microphone. I know how to do, and people are like, how do you know how to do this? And I'm like, I feel like I should. I just feel like I should know. So
because I screwed it up 6 times before this that you didn't see, which is another thing that that's huge that I tell teachers too, and I'm sure you do. Like, I'm going to tell you about this new tool. I mean, we're going to work together on it. You're going to go to your classroom on Monday morning, and it's probably going to blow up in your face.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay, because especially if we're trying to get our students to come out of that comfort zone a little bit too. All right, so we're running a little bit short on time. I got a couple little quick questions for you.
Okay.
All right, what's one ed tech tool that you think your teachers are underusing right now?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna call out because I feel like it's just top of mind. It's definitely Seesaw. And I when I say underusing, I mean underusing it in the capacity as to which Seesaw can be used for. So like using it for some of those like components where like kids can actually explain their thinking and go through and using the math, the manipulatives and like showing their work and then recording their screen as the kid's moving it and saying like, I moved this. For this array, I moved this here, and this is why I did it, and talking it through. Those more high, again, SAMR, I'm going back to it. Those higher levels of SAMR, I think we're not utilizing it enough. But a lot of times it's like step 1, get comfortable with it, and then before you can get to the next parts. So there's your answer to that one.
That's great. That speaks to my heart right there. The manipulative, the explaining, because that's what it's about, more so than what the kid turns in is how he got there or she got there.
Yeah,
love that answer. On the flip side of that, what's one thing teachers worry too much about when using tech?
I think it is living in the gray area. It's like if I myself as a teacher don't 100% know how to use something, I don't want to use it. And that is something that I'm trying to break through with teachers is I'm like, it's okay to live in the gray area. It's okay to not know it 100%. And that's why I love in our district, we have the coaching model put in place to where I can co-teach because I feel like that takes the edge off of it. So something that I do as a tech coach to kind of help with facilitate, because I understand, is I lead a tech leadership group. It's called Zeek Squad, Zionsville and Geek Squad. We inherited that name. I didn't create the group, and I just continued the group. But one of our missions and visions of that group is to help create little experts in the classroom. So, for example, a teacher was like, "Hey, I really wanted to use Adobe Express's Animate to Audio. Can you help?" And I'm like, "Perfect." So then I upload those little kiddos with that knowledge. I'm like, here's how to use it. Here's how you can help teach other kids. So when I'm co-teaching, I'll be like, hey, Zeek Squad kiddos, can you pop up and help out with this when they're done? And they're like, yeah. And then they love that because they're like, I get to be a leader in the classroom. And so some of that has kind of helped to help them feel supported in the classroom because when everybody's got their Chromebooks open and tech is not teching, it can feel very overwhelming as one person when all the hands come up. So I understand that. So that would be one that I'm like, talk explicitly about it too, be like, hey, here's what we're going to click. Here's what we're going to look at. And something that I've said, and a lot of teachers have been like, oh my God, Steve, I didn't even think about that. As soon as the hands start coming up, I'm like, read your screen. What does it look like you should do? And a lot of the teachers were like, I didn't even think to say that to them. They were just like, no, you have to click here because I, the teacher, am in the full cup and I'm pouring into all the cups. But if you're like, nope, I think they might have some skills here, you might be surprised.
Yeah, because we're so quick to, as teachers, to jump in and say that's the answer. Because one, we got to move on, or two, we gotta, it's just easier. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. Last one. If one teacher wanted to try something tomorrow, what's the first thing you would, maybe mindset, tool, what would you tell them to try first?
I would say just try it. Whatever it is. If you are looking at something online and you're like, or this TikTok that came across or an Instagram reel and you're like, well, this seems interesting. Just try it. Try it out. Maybe you try it out with a small group of students just to make it more digestible for you. But just try it. And if you know somebody who was like, even if it is on TikTok or Instagram and they were using it, send them a message. How did you do that? Do you have more information about that? Because like I shared at the beginning, a lot of educators that are in those spaces of willing to share, they will continue with you. Even though you might be like, oh, well, they'll never yes, a lot of times, yes, they will.
Awesome. So Stevie, lastly, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can you mentioned Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So what are we looking for on Twitter and LinkedIn to find you?
So Twitter X is going to be Stevie Frank 23. And then LinkedIn is just looking up my name, Stevie Frank, and I'm on there. I also have a website, steviefrank.com. So anytime I present or anytime that I am in spaces, and this podcast will be up there too as well, I always share out to there too, just to keep the sharing going.
Awesome, Stevie. Thanks for coming in today. It was a great conversation. All those links I'll throw in the show notes so that people can grab them.
Awesome.
And stuff like that. Have some safe travels to sunny, beautiful Palm Springs. I'll be in cold Western New York. It might even snow again. We don't know yet.
Well, safe travels to you too, Dan.
Thanks for coming, Stevie. Look forward to finally meeting you in person one of these days.
It'll happen, I'm sure.